it's Ina the Mood Reader, and welcome to my top 20 books of 2020. Okay, so this has been a video I'm sure you've seen floating around Booktube already, but I don't know, I just felt like looking back into my 2020 reading journey, which has been like the best out of many reading years so far. I have read 187 books this year, and looking back at it while I was doing this list was really fun. I can't believe it's just been a year. I felt like so many things have happened already for me personally, in my personal life, in my career, in my family life, and of course here in Booktube. So yeah, but today we'll be talking about all the books that I loved. Originally, I was planning to do a top 12 books, like one per month, but there were months here while I was doing this list wherein I couldn't choose just one, so I decided to add it up to 20 for 2020 because it sounds cute. Basically, so yeah, let's start. So I'll be doing this chronologically, and we'll be starting with January, wherein I have two books. The first of which is Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. It's a young adult contemporary romance between two Muslim teens. They met when our lead character, I'm sorry, I'm really not good at remembering names, but our female character was flown in from the US to this country in the Middle East, if I'm not mistaken, wherein she was given the chance, to think about her decisions, why she was suspended in school, and bond with other family members there. So this book discusses the prejudice Muslims face, especially when they are in the United States, wherein they are judged for their faith, for what they look like, for their culture, even for what they wear. So it's I'm always very passionate about these type of discussions, because it also is rampant here in our country, here in the Philippines. And this book talks a lot about Islamophobia and terrorism, the wars between these countries, and how it is seen by the younger generation. And in this book, we have two characters with polarizing opinions about how to approach terrorism and Islamophobia. One's a little more aggressive than the other. And then this book also shows us a love story, a young romance, but it's not your cutesy, giddy love story, because these characters are facing real troubles and problems in their lives. And of course, another factor that made me love this book is one of the characters has a chronic illness, something quite uncommon, and he also has to face having to tell this to his family, to his partner, of course, as this is a romance, and also as a young adult, you have many dreams that you have to pursue, but when you have an illness like this that is like might threaten how long you get to stay on this earth, things get crazy from there. So this book tackled so many realistic themes. It's really it's something that made me feel so much while I was reading this book. So I encourage everyone to pick this up if you have the chance to. And the second book that I read is another book with heavy themes. It's Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. I always look back to it as one of my favorite reads for 2020, and it's a book that discusses the lives of this group of teens, this group of teenagers in a small town wherein they have similar experiences related to sexual assault, and they find comfort in each other differently. This book shows how different people, different individuals get to process something that happens to them. There's no wrong or right way that people get to recover from extreme trauma as this one, and especially in a community where people usually just sweep these issues, they just ignore it, they don't address it, especially when the people accused are like coming from rich and famous families, as well as being star of their schools, you know, as long as they're in a position of power. And it's, of course, rape and sexual assault is something that's really hard to prove, and that's what makes it even heavier for someone who has been a victim to keep on recounting these events just to make, you know, a blind justice system believe them. And yeah, so this book discusses all of that. It's also empowering at the same time that it is heartbreaking. So if you are looking for a realistic book that will make you rethink the way you see issues like this, Nowhere Girls is a good book to start with. Now we go to my February pick. It's a single book. It's The Two Lila Bennets by Liz Fenton and Lisa Steinke. It's a mystery thriller wherein this defense lawyer, her story is told in two parallel alternate universes, wherein in one future she becomes a captive, and in another universe she lives a free life. But both of these come with consequences. Both of them reflect on the sins that she has done and the bad stuff that she does as a defense lawyer, that, you know, sometimes you tend to, well, she doesn't have the choice, but sometimes there's this defending people who are guilty and letting them get away with what they've done. So this book gives you two different pathways of this person's life. Both are exciting, both give so much thrill, and I really, really loved how the author duo was able to create this type of story. So next we go to March, and for March I have two picks as well. The first is Wicked As You Wish by Rin Chupeco. It's a fantasy book that is very, very Filipino, and as a Filipino I was so excited, happy when I was reading this book. I think it was the first book that Rin ever wrote, and they had some struggles and challenges getting it represented in the international market, but I'm so happy that they were able to accomplish that goal. And now we have a book that's filled with rich culture. It has fairy tales, it has magic, it has folklore, and the characters were clever and witty. It was a fun reading experience, and I am so excited for the series to continue on. It's a really, really good book. At first you might get confused with all of the world building, but it's just an amazing story. So you should pick it up. And the second pick for March is Sick Kids in Love. This one, just as the title says, is about two sick kids. They have chronic diseases, and this book showed what their regular life is like. So this has also LGBT representation, and what I enjoyed about this book is that even though they have their own diseases and illnesses, this book showed how some light scenes, some coming of age, you know, regular things that they get to do, and the lighter side of their lives, even though of course they also discussed how it it is really like to go through a disease, for example, discussing just pain, wherein nobody else can really understand how much in pain you are aside from yourself. So it's a really good book. I love the romance aspect of it. It was really cute. And I also loved how these characters were flawed. They made, decisions that might not be the best one, as young people tend to make. But all in all, it's an amazing story, and I really am glad that I got to pick this up as well. For April, I also have two picks. This one, the first one is It's Not Me, It's You by Stephanie Kate Strom. It's an audiobook, and I think the book is really best experienced as an audiobook because it is a project of the lead character, which is an oral history of her past relationships. So it's she's kind of obsessed with love, and she's wondering why she is alone at the moment, why her relationships didn't work. So the project becomes an oral history of interviewing all the guys she has ever dated. And the way the story was written is that this oral history is filled with recorded interviews, and our lead character inserts some editor's notes defending her side, which made the experience even better, which is why I loved this book. It is pretty light and fluffy. It is something that even the young adults will enjoy, but even though I am technically very, very adult already, this book gave me a break from those heavy mysteries I have been reading. It's a really nice escape. It's very cute. It's a nice way to spend your time, especially when you listen to it through audio. And then the next April pick is You'd Be Mine by Erin Han. I am a sucker for music-centered romances, and this one is it's a good description of that. I don't know why, but when I read this book, I was reminded of Daisy Jones and the Six. Probably because the characters are country artists that are like very, very famous superstars. So our two leads, one is a country music legend, the other is like just a star on his own right, and they tour together. So if you want to like follow along musicians as they tour the country and their adventures, of course, like flirting and falling in love, and some serious issues related to fame, like of course the lack of privacy, alcohol, drugs, and the image that you have to portray on public. All of that will be discussed in this book. I really, really loved it. I think this is the type of book that I really would want to read again, just so I would get to experience the same happy, giddy, fangirl feelings that this book brought me. As someone who really likes following along the lives of musicians, this book was like right up my alley. Next, for May, I was able to pick a book, a single one. It's Keep the Faith by Ana Tejano. She is a Filipino romance author. This book is from the Romance Class series. I actually listened to this book on Spotify through the Romance Class podcast, but it's also available in print and in ebook. It's a fairly innocent, clean romance, if you know what I mean. And it's surprising because it's so fluffy, and I usually don't go for titles like that. I want some steam in my romance, if you get my point. But this book gave me all the kilig vibes. I really adored the book, and the characters. It's really the characters and my connection to them that made this book the best book for me that I have read in May. So if you're looking into exploring like Filipino romance, you should definitely check out Keep the Faith by Ana Tejano. Now for June, I had two picks. First is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. It's a really fun book. It's about prom. It's about an overachiever student. It also has a sapphic romance in it for this cute high schoolers. It's so wholesome and it's so fun. The writing style is very entertaining. It's very, very cute, exciting, hyper young adult style of writing, but with better representation. And it's a really fun story. It was an adventure. They were quirky, and I haven't read much sapphic romances in my life, so whenever I get the chance to read some, it's a nice enlightening experience for me. And it's nice that nowadays like the representation, it keeps on improving, I guess, for different types of people. And it's nice to know that many teens will get to see themselves in the books. I hope they do get the chance and they jump on like reading, because there's nothing like being seen in the books that you read. And I'm so happy that publishing I know there's still a long way to go, but it's changing for the better. And You Should See Me in a Crown is a great example of a book that I hope many young adults would read, so that they'll be more open in life and people and respect. Next, we have Let Me Hear a Rhyme by Tiffany Jackson. This book tells the story of this little sister and the friends of her brother who has recently passed away. And her brother is like a future, let me just say, rap icon or hip-hop icon. He is a great rapper, and he really wanted to get that big break as the son of a rapper who also passed away quite early. So this book discusses gangs and drugs and the bad side of life. And even here in the Philippines, there are so many young lives that get taken away without receiving the justice that they deserve. And for this specific story, they wanted to share his music even though he's already gone, because they know that he is talented, he deserves the recognition, he deserves to leave a legacy. And there's so much potential that has been lost, but again, it was a chance for them to let him live on through his music that he has already created but no one has heard yet. So it was a fun adventure for them to like get his records, get him signed post his life, like posthumously. It's thrilling in a way, as well as heartwarming. It has, yeah. I can't say more about it. Just pick this book up, okay? Next, we're going to July, and we have On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. And I listened to this via audiobook as was advised to me, and the narrator did an amazing job. The rap parts and the song parts are really sang or rapped, making the book even more realistic to listen to. So again, similarly to the last book, On the Come Up also talks about this time a girl who wants to be a hip-hop star or a rap superstar, but she has experienced limitations because of poverty and life and all of that. But when she was given the chance to shine, she discovered what fame is like. And then when she got famous, there she realized how powerful and influential words are, and how this can affect the way people see you, the way people will idolize you, and how you should be careful about your image and your using your influence for the people in your community. And again, it also shows how the music industry works in a way. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but it gives you an idea on what it is like. The second July pick is Dumpling by Julie Murphy. And it's a favorite of mine for this year because, of course, the body positivity and the fat rep. As a plus size girl, I appreciate being able to see a book that represents me. I mean, younger Ina would have so much fun reading this because, of course, in how weight is represented in media and how beauty is distinctly specific characteristics, just like in beauty pageants. And Dumpling really gave me that book that I have been looking for a long time. It's a really good book. I mean, she's not a perfect character. She's very flawed. She makes this craziest decisions. I wish I could have like pulled her away from those decisions and those words, especially that she has said, especially in the relationships she has with the people in her life. But all in all, it was a good book. It was a great one. I remember it. I loved the movie adaptation as well. But of course, I love the book more. And it's something that I would probably revisit in the future. For August, this was Weekathon month. I have read so many Filipino works. I wish I could like include them all in my favorites, but I had to narrow it down. So my choices were Janucila, the first book of the series, and Hello Universe by Erin Entrada Kelly. Hello Universe is a middle grade book. It has this really quirky characters. I love the adventure. I love the Filipino representation here, the stories, mythology, and folklore. This is a really good book to pick up. Of course, Janucila, it has been, I think it has been published for more than 5 years now, but last year was the first time I got to read the book. It's written in Filipino, by the way, and it's a really amazing series. I'm so happy that we have a series like Janucila here in the Philippines, wherein Filipino kids would get to see something that we can really claim as our own. It has technology, it has fantasy, it has adventure, it's scary. At first I was just enjoying the representation and seeing how good of a storyteller Edgar Calabe-Samar is, but eventually, especially towards the end of the book, I had goosebumps. I was really scared. I wasn't expecting the book to turn that way. I wasn't expecting to be scared of a novel that's like written for young adults, but it's really scary. And it's really painful as well. I had some kilig, I had some fun. I was confused in many times, in many parts of the book, but towards the end of it, the thrill is amazing. The suspense and the adventure. I'm sure that in the next installments of the series, I would also feel the same way. For September, I also have 2 picks. The first one is We Are Not Free by Tracy Chi. It's an arc I received for a blog tour, and it revolves around the experience of Japanese teens, Japanese young adults during the Second World War. And I mentioned it in my wrap-up that as a Filipino, we were colonized by the Japanese. So we usually, when looking back at the Second World War, we see them as the bad guys because they have killed so many Filipinos, especially Filipino women. We had this dark history. So I didn't know that some Japanese also experienced the same thing. The Philippines was an ally of the Americans, and I didn't know that the Americans did so many bad things to the Japanese who were in the US. And this book educated me about things that weren't discussed, of course, in school. And yeah, it's this book is like told in multiple perspectives, so many POVs. But at the end of it all, what it left to me was so much pain, and it was a really, really sad point in many Japanese lives. I didn't really know it, so it was an educational moment, and I will cherish being educated through We Are Not Free by Tracy Chi. So the next book I read in September that is like in my top picks is Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. I actually read Regretting You as well in January, but other books overshadowed Regretting You. But this time we gave the spotlight to a Colleen Hoover book, which is Heartbones. This one is a young adult romance. Compared to the other people who have read this book, the plot twist of this book took me away, like blew me away. Of course, when I read Colleen Hoover books, I would rather approach it blindly, so I don't have any idea what the book would be about. And Heartbones was amazing. Just like any other Colleen Hoover book, I'm a sucker for Colleen Hoover, so I may be biased, but it's a really good love story. I wasn't expecting the twists. I loved how she told this story, especially towards the end. It was a surprise. She really gives original stories that you'll always connect to her, and her writing style is superb. So yeah, I really loved Heartbones. For October, my favorite book is Suicide House by Charlie Donlea. It's a random pick from Scribd, but I got so many chills while I was listening to the audiobook of this one. It also has an autism representation for one of the detectives for the forensic reconstructionist, and also this book was told in many points of view. I didn't really know what to expect when I read this book. All I know is that this group of people keeps coming back to this like house for a boarding school, and they commit suicide there. And the way this book slowly told the story was amazing. I love the suspense and the thrill. I did not guess who did it, so yeah, it was a good book. For November, I also have a single pick, and it's Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. It's a 24-hour romance between two high school rivals. I've been talking about it quite recently, so I can remember how smiley I was when I was reading the book. It's like, having one who you think as an enemy, but is actually a friend, and then that friendship turning into a relationship. It also is like a tour of Seattle, and I don't know, I just really love the entire book. You should just read it. You could listen to it as well. I really, really loved the dynamic between the two main characters and the people around them. It was also a fun adventure. It wasn't boring. I could not give it up. I couldn't pause the audiobook. I just wanted to know what would happen next. I really love the romance. It's really cute. So yeah. Now we're down to book number 19 and 20. First, my pick is Wing of the Locust by Joel Donato Ching Jacob. It's a recent read. It's also a book by a Filipino author, and this one is a fantasy. The representation I got from here is amazing. It told the story of Filipinos before the Spaniards came in and colonized us for 333 years. So it shows Filipino culture like in its purest, one that we don't really have anymore here, like so far into the future. But it's amazing to see how that worked, and I also enjoyed the fantasy and mythology aspects of this book. I had some questions once the book was closed, but I'm still excited to see what's next, because as the people behind the book commented on my last Booktube video about this, they said that it's a series, so perhaps the questions that I have would be answered by then. But for now, Wing of the Locust is something that would always be special to me, and it's something that I might reread soon once the next book comes out. And lastly, my final top book for 2020 is More Than Maybe, again by Erin Han. And this book is another music related book. This time we have another son of a famous, I think, rock star. He has this podcast with his brother, and the other character is a music writer who covers gigs, who has a blog, promotes like and stuff like that, and she's also managing a club wherein indie bands can play. So they get to know each other. It's a romance. You know, I don't want to spoil anything about their romance and about their story, but it's a really cute one. I loved all the music references in this book. I also love how their romance went, how it unfolded, and it also discussed the future, how you decide on what you really want to do with your life. And you know, sometimes what people want you to pursue is not what you see. Like, you know, you can have the best talent or skill in something, but if it's not what makes you happy, then you don't have to pursue it. For example, having the best voice in the world doesn't mean you have to be like a singer or a performer if it's not really what you want. So yeah, so those are my top 20 books for 2020. I'm sorry it was a little rambly. As you can see, I really love those titles so much. I actually stopped myself from saying more. It could have been like a 2-hour long video, but you know, yeah. Those are the top 20 books that I enjoyed reading this 2020. If you also created your own list, please link them down below so I can visit what books you enjoyed. I can get some recommendations for you, or if you want, you can comment down below your top book for 2020 and why you loved it so much. So yeah, you can also message me on Twitter. You can comment or DM me on Bookstagram so we can be friends. I don't bite, I'm friendly. But yeah, see you on the next video. I still have a few wrap-ups coming, referencing the 2020 reading year. Eventually we'll get to this year at this point. But yeah, thank you again. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being with me for the past few months, and I hope that I'm so excited to see what my top 20 books would be for 2021. I hope I make smart decisions with the books I pick for the year, but yeah, let's see. Who knows? Again, thank you so much for watching this video. See you on the next one. Bye!